Welcome back to another episode of Toast Sports Baseball. Today we have the Rockies flirting with an all-time worst record, the Dodgers embarrass the Yankees, and McCutchen makes history. Plus, we've got Cal Raleigh going nuclear, injury updates, win streaks, and the GM Spotlight this week heads to Arizona. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, Joe, let's start it out in Colorado. We've got the Rockies looking like potentially the worst team of all time. And when we're looking at their win percentage, it's getting scary close to the Cleveland Spiders in 1899. Do you think they're going to make a run at that record, or do you think they're going to get it together a little bit here, even win a couple games just to avoid it?
Yeah, I think they have a shot at the record. They keep playing how they're playing. I know their catcher Jacob Stallings told reporters after today's game that they have a really good group of guys in the locker room. We've been playing a lot better baseball. We haven't been able to get over the hump. A lot of close games this week that didn't go our way. We just have to keep plugging. Hopefully we can break through. So, Clubhouse is staying positive, but I don't think the positive vibes are going to be enough with the roster that's been constructed for the Rockies. And ultimately, I would assume that more younger players will be continued to be brought up to advance their progression for the years to come.
Yeah, they're basically right now on pace to win 25 total games. And to give people perspective, last year the White Sox broke the losses record, and I think it was set at 121 losses. Right now, the Rockies are expected to completely blow that out of the water and hit 137 losses this year. When we're talking about the Cleveland Spiders, we just looked this up prior to the podcast here. We could not believe it was even this close, to be honest. The Cleveland Spiders, their win percentage in 1899 was a .130. And if you're like, wow, that's so bad, there's no way they're touching that. Right now, the Colorado Rockies have a .53 win percentage, so it's not out of the question. I think they're on an 8-game losing streak right now. They got another. I was looking at their schedule today. They have to play the Mets again this coming weekend, so chances are that's a sweep. I don't see them getting a lot of wins. Maybe they pick up one against Miami here in the next couple days, which would be a godsend for them. But it doesn't get much easier. You got the Mets, then the Giants, then you have to play the Braves, and then you have 4 games against the Nationals. Maybe you pick 1 or 2 up there, but then it's immediately back to Diamondbacks, Dodgers, and Brewers. So, I mean, this is not going to be a good month if you're a Colorado Rockies fan or their front office for that matter. So this could get really ugly really quick.
Yeah, I mean, luckily Blue Moon's brewed in the ballpark, so everyone can go get some Blue Moons while they watch the Rockies make history.
Yeah, I think if I was a Rockies fan, I would just have to be obliterated to go to a game there. I might watch it on TV and be somewhat sober, but definitely not going to the ballpark and engaging in sobriety for those games, in my opinion. Let's skip over to the opposite half of that division, and let's look at the Dodgers. The Dodgers this week. The Yankees series was supposed to be this kind of big, World Series matchup again, and let's see what goes on and who's really got it. And the Dodgers have been good this year, but they haven't been, crazy. They've been solid. And you got the Judge and Ohtani stuff. Both of them have performed, but man, the Dodgers put in absolute wrecking on the Yankees on that game too. 18-2, which marked their largest margin of victory over New York ever. And at the same time, I believe it set it was like a 60-year record for the largest loss in Yankees history. So, not good. But I will tell you, this is kind of right in line with what you've been waiting to see from the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Dodgers are really good, and the Yankees aren't as good as advertised. And probably a little bit of both bled into this weekend. Looks like the Yanks are going to salvage at least one win as we record late Sunday, but against Yamamoto. But I think if you're the Yankees, you look at who was thrown at you this weekend, and you feel like you got to at least win 2 out of 3, and only coming up with one, I think, is a very disappointing road trip for them.
Yeah, I think another thing to note here, that it could have been worse, right? I mean, Mookie Betts was not playing this weekend due to a stub toe, which, we won't get too far into that. But, man, it sounds like it was actually fractured, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. Because if all he did was stub his toe, I was not going to give him a pass on that one. But I do know that the Dodgers rotation is still pretty beat up, so this could have been a lot worse for the Yankees. Potentially not only just a sweep, but maybe an overall shellacking where they didn't score nearly as many runs as they did. The Dodgers are just better. They're just better in every facet right now than the Yankees. And it was on full display on national television this weekend. Let's go ahead and talk about, this is kind of cool. I love this guy, Andrew McCutchen. What an awesome dude for baseball, has been for years. He's always been solid, even now in kind of the twilight of his career. He continues just to kind of be a solid contributor for the Pirates. And I know he took a little bit of a break there away from the Pirates, and good for him on going back. He actually tied Clemente on the Pirates home run list this last week. Actually, I think it was today. I think he hit the homer today. So he's now tied for third in the all-time Pirates home run list. Pretty cool. He's 38 years old. He's in his 17th MLB season and 12th with Pittsburgh. Kind of puts him into royalty in that organization. Not that he wasn't already, but this kind of cements him in the history books there.
Yeah, he's the main attraction for the Pirates besides Paul Skeens. And someone that has shown great loyalty to that organization who has not been loyal to their players. And definitely a cool accomplishment for him. I believe he's from Bartow, Florida. So pretty cool accomplishment for Andrew McCutchen, Mr. McClutch.
He's the captain over there, man. He has been for years. The cap. I love the one of my favorite things about McCutchen, and it will always be, is the little tip of the cap once he hits his home runs and he's coming around and touching home plate. As such it's iconic. Been there for years, obviously, and a staple in the game of baseball. So I mean, look, man, I don't know who's sitting top. Who would be the number one guy?
It's the dude from the 80s. I just looked him up. It's not Willie Sturgill, but
it is Willie Sturgill.
It is Willie. Willie Sturgill.
Yeah, and Ralph Kiner is second, 475. Yeah, so
I think Ralph Kiner played in like the tens.
So we won't see Andrew get up that high, obviously, but still a fun stat, and good things for the Pirates when there's not a lot that's going well for them. Although I will say, last week or so they've gone a nice little run here, so it's kind of been fun for Pirates fans, at least for short periods of time. Something to get excited about. Let's talk about Cal Raleigh. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the big dumper this month, but he's been dumping on everybody. And he set a new franchise record, hitting 13 home runs in May. I believe he's tied with Ohtani for the league lead in home runs. He's nasty, man. And he just won't stop smashing the baseball. And right now I'm looking at his contract that he just signed, and I'm like, man, the Mariners almost got to feel like they're getting a steal out of this guy right now, because the way that he's hitting the ball, I mean, he might as well be, he might as well be up there mentioned with the Ohtanis and the Judges and even the PCAs, all the hyped up guys right now. Cal Raleigh's making his case for being right in that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, Cal Raleigh's on the fantasy baseball team. Love the big dumper on our team. He is currently third in WAR this year, only behind Aaron Judge and Jeremy Pena, which would put him third in the AL. But for a catcher, that's insane. So having his production from that spot in baseball is, I don't know who the last person would do it. I would assume Mike Piazza,
Yeah.
maybe Buster Posey, but I don't know if Buster Posey had the offensive power to be up in WAR, but it could have been him. But it's been a while for put it short. But yeah, have an amazing year. Keeping Seattle afloat offensively, and should only continue to get better as it heats up.
Yeah, I think when you look at that Seattle lineup, right, it's welcome for them. Obviously, if a Rosarena can continue to kind of hit the ball the way he's hitting it, and Julio, who's been a pretty well-known slow starter, who's actually played pretty well. I think his average will start climbing a little bit. You'll see him kind of get out of that mid-twos and up toward like 280 something. That overall lineup is so much better if Cal Raleigh is a monster. So it looks a lot better on paper, and it's going to look a lot scarier to pitchers that have to oppose them come down the stretch here, especially with, the Rangers not looking outrageously formidable, and with Houston not looking, all that scary either, considering they can't win more than 2 games in a row. If Seattle can get this type of offensive performances out of Cal Raleigh, watch out.
Yeah, and he also manages the staff, and he's great defensively, which is just another caveat to his production. I do have some breaking news on toast. Jack Caglianone has been called up by the Royals.
It was about time. It had to happen. And I'll tell you right now, it wouldn't surprise me to watch him come up the same way he did with AAA and just not miss a beat. He smashes baseballs, and he hits for a high average as well. Jack Caglianone he's a star in the making, and I can't wait to watch him make his debut. Is it going to be, sounds like it might be this week, maybe Monday?
Yeah, I think it's tomorrow. I'm still looking. I just Googled it, and it still has not updated anything, but it came through Fantasy Pros, I believe. So I'm about to check that out. It came by too quick, but I think it said it was like he's available for 90% of something.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can find the little article that was Caglianone.
Let's see what we got here. So, I'm not getting any hits on it yet. It wouldn't surprise me at all, though. And it sounds like it was only a matter of time. I think they were trying to make sure that they got the extra year of team control with him.
Yeah, it is interesting. I wonder what that date is.
And it had nothing really to do with his play, obviously. I think he was slashing well over 300, hit 5 homers in his first 6 games with AAA. It doesn't get much better than that from a production standpoint.
Yeah, we'll see what he does. First base, outfield, DH. I'm sure he'll be welcomed anywhere.
Yeah, I kind of want to see him play a little bit of outfield, but man, watching him and Vinny P, if Vinny P can, kind of get his shit together and play like the all-star talent that he really is, and if he can make it consistent, I mean, that lineup could be crazy scary. With Michael Garcia, who's hitting well over 300. He's only 25 years old. He also steals like 30 bases a year. You got Bobby Witt, who is he's a MVP level candidate every single year. Jack Caglianone and Vinny P in that lineup is, I mean, that's scary. And the way that their staff is pitching, I mean, they could easily give the Tigers a run for their money in that division this year.
Yeah, we'll see. I am on Twitter, and there's a bunch of confirmation on here all over the place. Talking Baseball has it. Jeff Passan has it.
That's phenomenal.
Fox Sports MLB has it. Florida Gators have it.
You know who's getting a big boost this week out of that is the Wrigley Wreckers Fantasy Baseball Squad. We had to have it, and I'll tell you right now, we're getting it. And I hope to God he just comes in and solidifies himself in that lineup, because it would be fun to watch.
Yep. Just the recap. I don't know if you already said this when I was looking for this, but he is hitting 322 with 15 home runs and 56 RBIs in 50 games between AA and AAA this year.
Ridiculous stats. Absolutely ridiculous stats. They just got to find a way to make sure that he's in the lineup every day. You know, that's the one thing I have issues with calling guys up this year specifically, but in the last few years. Like, you see Jordan Lawler, right? He comes up for the D-backs. He's one of their top prospects. He's raking it at AAA. And then they call him up and they don't even get him in the lineup the first day he's there. And it's like they don't really have a spot for him, but they know they need to have him up there. They never get him in a really good rhythm. I really hope with Jack that they don't really do that same thing. I want to see him in the lineup daily. They need him in the lineup daily. They're not scoring a lot of runs. The last three, I mean, if you look at the last couple games against the Tigers, even this weekend, they were like 1-run games. It was like 1-0 and 1-0. The Tigers weren't scoring a lot, and the Royals weren't scoring a lot. So let's get some offense going.
Yeah, gotta have it. I guess we can stay on the prospect train, as the 18th rated prospect is officially called up. The number 1 overall prospect still needs more work in AAA, according to their general manager, Craig Breslow, to the media, to the Boston Globe. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. My personal opinion is just shut up, Breslow. You don't even have to say anything about it. Well, first of all, we know it's bullshit. I mean, if we're just being completely honest, he's talking to the media and he has to find a reason that there's some reason to have Roman Anthony in AAA. We all know it's probably contract related, and it gives them team control down the road if they hold him for another couple days or a week or whatever it is. Just don't say much of anything. You don't have to. Like, I think my whole thing is you're about to bring this guy up, no doubt. Let's not already just kind of throw some stuff out there about how he still needs to improve when all he's doing at AAA is playing like the number 1 player in baseball in the minors. So give him his credit, and just say that it's coming. It's coming. He's making his case.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying too, because he did it to the Boston Globe, which is owned by Fenway Sports Group. So it's like gaslighting essentially fans, and you got to think, like, after he got done with that interview, was he like, oh, I wonder if they bought that, like the fans will finally get off our back. Like, they're definitely going to believe that this guy who hits a home run every other day, and his average exit velo is like 115 miles an hour. He'd be like top 3 in exit velo in the MLB currently if he was playing there, but clearly has more to work on. So I do think that they get a draft compensation if they wait. I forgot what date in June it is, but it's the first week of June. So I do think that by our next podcast, it's more than likely that Roman Anthony will be in the big leagues.
Yeah, he needs to be. It's the same thing. We said it last week with Cags, and I think we actually mentioned Roman last week as well. There's no reason to keep these types of guys in the minors and just let them. Like, what are they figuring out? They need to see big league pitching, and they need to do it on a consistent basis so that we can see, what they're going to deliver at the top level. When they're raking the way that they are at AAA, they're not getting a lot by going out there and seeing, a career minor leaguer pitcher for the 15th day in a row. It's just not helping them a lot. So,
yeah, I think if you have prospects that are part of your 3 to 5 year plan, and they're ready to be in the big leagues, you got to figure out a way to get them a slot open, unless they're truly being blocked. Like, if they have Chipper Jones in front of them at third base and they're a third baseman, it's like, yeah, you're gonna have to find another position.
Yeah.
Or as an organization, you trade and supplement your team. So I don't think that's the case with the Red Sox. Up here's some more stuff on Caglianone, but it's cool for Cags. When I was watching him in person, I thought his swing was a little long. But obviously he has proven me wrong with all these minor league at-bats. However, I will say Marcelo Meyer was a stud. He's currently has an OPS of under 600 right now. Christian Campbell, who is AL Rookie of the Month, then had his last month have a OPS of under 600. So it is a process, and the big leagues are definitely different than AAA or AA. So
Correct.
obviously rooting for him, and we will see what happens.
Yeah, that's one of the things too these days. Everybody wants the immediate, you walk in and you're Paul Skeens. It's just not. It's not like that all the time. There are guys that come along that are just studs right out of the gate.
In baseball, it's few to none.
Yeah, it's few to none. But
So,
I mean, we've seen, we obviously saw Skeens recently, in recent memory come out. But then you look at his teammate Dylan Cruz, who has not seen that type of success, and we've seen the Christian Campbells, and we've seen the Marcelo Mares. I think Cags probably has a little bit more. I think he has a little bit more upside than a lot of those guys, if I'm being completely honest. And we have seen in the minors this year, his swing did look long to me as well, specifically in college. They've quickened that up. His bat speed is pretty elite these days, and his exit velocities are out of control. So
he's definitely strong like Bull. I don't doubt his bat speed or anything else, but like I said, it'll be interesting to see. It will be interesting to see. You definitely don't want him barreling the ball if you're an opposing pitcher, because he'll make you pay.
Let's talk a little bit of injuries going on here. Just today, actually, which is really unfortunate. We've had two big star names go down to injury: Corbin Burnes and Kyle Tucker. Corbin Burnes, he exited with a more concerning one than Kyle Tucker. Right elbow discomfort. He's scheduled for an MRI on Monday. If you watch the game or you watch the highlight of him, it was not good. He immediately signals over to the bench, calling for the trainer. And you could kind of see him say something to his teammates that were approaching the mound. And he said, "My elbow." Never a good sign for a pitcher.
Yeah, it's definitely TJ.
It's probably TJ, and we hate to speculate on that, but that's usually what it is. And it's rough, man. The Diamondbacks are kind of going through it right now. We're going to talk a little bit more about them later in the podcast, but not a good situation. And then just to give you the footnotes here on Kyle Tucker, he was attempting to steal a base earlier today, slid in head first. Kind of an awkward slide to begin with. He actually smashed his face into the dirt. Which nobody talked about that piece. I thought originally that was why he was maybe coming out, even because it looked like he was really beat up. But he actually jammed his right ring finger into the base. X-rays were negative, so he's considered day-to-day. I expect he will likely be in the lineup when they next play. At worst, he may sit a game or two.
Yeah, Corbin definitely sucks. I feel like he got off to a little rocky start as well. Arizona was his dream destination, so kind of get the pitch in his hometown and where he always wanted to play. And then he finally starts to figure it out a little bit, and his elbow barks. So wish nothing but the best, but anytime that happens and you get pulled from the elbow, usually he probably heard something pop or something along those lines, and means he'll be out 8 to 12 months next year. And for Tucker, if I'm the Cubs, it'd be a great time to flash him that $500 million contract.
Yeah. Use whatever little.
Hey, you can get injured tomorrow.
You can get.
You know? Here's $500 million. Lock up your security for you and your family.
Exactly.
Be a Cub
let's lock
for life.
this down, please.
Please. It is nice. The X-rays were negative on his finger, so I think he'll be back possibly for the next game.
Yeah, I mean. In the Cubs, they don't need any more injury situations going on. They already just got news that Imanaga is going to be out well into June, which is straight from the manager's mouth. So yeah, let's avoid any sort of issues if we're the Cubs, and let's try to keep it rolling, because right now they're elite. They're really good, and they've opened up a 4-game lead on the Cardinals. Let's talk about another team in that same division, the Brewers. So they actually secured their 7th consecutive win. They beat the Phillies and swept them today.
Swept the Sox earlier in the week.
Swept the Sox earlier in the week. So they're on some sort of tear right now. Yeah, the Brew Crew, man. This is par for the course for this
Classic Brew
organization.
Crew. Classic Brew Crew.
It marks their longest winning streak since August of 2023. They're now sitting at 32-28, 4 games over 500, and all of a sudden the Central's looking competitive across the board. Even the Pirates are what they are, but even they've had a nice little streak going here lately where they're winning some games. Don't be surprised to see that division tighten up and the Cubs not be able to completely pull away with it, which would really suck as a fan. But it sounds like it's kind of heating up there.
Yeah. It's becoming competitive even on their 7-game win streak. The Cubs have been able to still maintain a 4-game lead. So shout out to them. They're 8-2 in their last 10. The Brewers are also 8-2. The Red Sox series was easily could have been swept, but they ended up sweeping. And then sweeping the Phils is always a great accomplishment, especially how hot they've been. And special shout out to their manager, Pat Murphy, who a couple weeks ago had kind of a mental breakdown, calling out his entire team, calling out the entire organization. Really odd move, honestly. You rarely see it nowadays where a manager demands stuff and starts pointing the finger at their players. And the Brew Crew has responded. And, Pat Murphy's longtime bench coach and then was promoted once Craig Counsell bounced to the rival. And then he brought on Ricky Weeks as his associate manager. Shout out to Ricky. And they have been able to turn the tide as of now and have put themselves in playoff contention once again, and only 5.5 back from the Cubs and 1.5 games back for second place behind the Cardinals, which you would think with the Reds slipping a little bit that they have a very good chance to at least be in second place sooner than later.
Yeah, I'm a big Ricky Weeks fan, man. I was when he played, and I still am today. So obviously, being a Cubs fan, there's a little bit of complex there. But yeah, I think the Brew Crew is always going to do what they're going to do, which is hang around. At the worst, they're just going to be pesky, and they're going to go out there and they're going to ruin some series for your team, and that's the worst that they're going to do. And at some other time, the best that they're going to do is probably win the division on a consistent basis. So if you're the Cubs or you're the Cardinals right now, do not sleep on the Brew Crew, and watch your back because they're coming and they don't really relent. Same kind of goes for the Toronto Blue Jays here. They extended their winning streak to 5 games. They had an 8-4 victory on against the A's on June 1st, which is when we are recording this podcast. Yeah, 4-game sweep of the A's, man. They're 31-28. It's their 7th straight home win and their 9th in their past 13 games. So the offense is humming. They've scored 31 runs over their first 3 games of the series, and I don't know that there's a lot of slowdown. It's starting to look like they're heating up. The bats are actually starting to get a little funky. Vladdy's hitting. George Springer had a 2-home run game. And, fun times if you're a Toronto Blue Jay.
Yeah, I think they got a little lucky with some scheduling, a little weaker schedule right now. But they got the Phils coming up, which will be a good series for them, a good test. And then their weekend slate, they have the Twins. So they got to face 2 teams over 500. I think this would be a good week to see what they do. They got a veteran team. So
yeah,
they keep winning. Maybe they can be buyers and can supplement some things and see if they can't make a playoff push in the wide open American League.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate for the A's, man. They ran into the Blue Jays while they were hot, and the A's have not been really that hot, but they actually were swinging the bat great this week. Soderstrom had a bunch of homers. I know Jacob Wilson had a 4-hit game. They had the rookie out there, Denzel, out in center field, made a ridiculous jumping catch on the center field wall where he basically scaled it like Spider-Man. It was pretty sweet. And then he hit his first homer in the next game. So it's not like the A's were, rolling over for the Blue Jays. It was a tough contested matchup, and good for the Blue Jays kind of getting it done and getting on track a little bit now with a winning record. Watch out, man. That's another division where, everything's a little tight here, and we're going to cover that here in a minute, but there's not a lot of runaways right now. Maybe a couple, but not a lot of runaways. This is kind of a footnote, but it is a top story in baseball. We have not seen a lot of people talking about this, but the FBI is investigating financial dealings involving One Team Partners, which is a licensing firm that was co-founded in 2019 by the MLBPA, the NFLPA, and Redbird Capital. So I guess what they're doing here is there's some key concerns centered on potential mismanagement, nepotism, and undisclosed equity grants to union executives. Particularly, and mentioned by name, is the MLBPA director, Tony Clark, the 6'8" first baseman for the Tigers. Obviously, that's an ex-player. I think he's 52 years old now. But it sounds like he's earned well over $3 million sitting on the One Team's board in 2024 alone. So nobody's obviously saying that they've done any wrongdoing. They're not owning up to anything, but there's some assets being questioned, and I guess some MLB players have already been pulled in as well.
Yeah, Tony Clark's denied all validity of the report. Probably not the leverage you want heading into player negotiations after next year's season. Mm-hmm. So definitely a story to look at, and you definitely do not want any bad publicity if you're baseball right now, especially with its somewhat revival of the sport in popularity.
Yeah, it's been going good, and we would hate to see it. I hope this is kind of a nothing burger, and things kind of go by the wayside, or at the very least, if somebody like Tony Clark just ends up taking the brunt of it and kind of shields the rest of the league and the PA, it would be kind of nice as well. Let's talk about some umpires. The guys that always want the spotlight. They never had the spotlight, but they always put themselves in situations to get the spotlight. We kind of talked about it earlier, and you got names like Angel Hernandez, and it's like I wish I didn't know the names of the umpires, because if I know your name, you're probably doing something wrong, because I shouldn't know your name. You're calling the game, you're managing the game for the players and making sure that the rules are being followed. Outside of that, don't make it about you. And we've had some examples over the last day, including today. The one that sparked this conversation originally was the Taylor Walls ejection today, which he disagreed with a called strike. Umpire Nick Lentz was the home plate umpire, and Walls kind of expressed some frustration. He stepped out of the batter's box. He adjusted his helmet, and then he did, I don't know that it was exactly this, but he more or less tapped the top of his helmet, which is the new sign for the robo umps to check if it was a called strike or a ball. And Mr. Lentz did not find that entertaining and immediately ejected Walls. And Walls obviously said that his gesture was unintentional. He expressed confusion over the quick ejection. But at the same time, really what we need to talk about here is, are the umpires, are they putting themselves into position to impact games too much? Are they showing too much personality? And do we need to scale it back?
Yeah, I mean, I used to hate the idea of the robo umps because baseball's an imperfect game and you can fail drastically and you're a Hall of Famer. And so I kind of enjoyed having umpires. I don't know if enjoyed's the right word, but I understood when they missed a call because the game itself is based off being imperfect,
Yeah.
which means your strike zone's never perfect. You know, you hit a ball right on the screws and it goes right at someone, not perfect. You can throw the perfect pitch and it get taken for a home run. It's just an imperfect game. But these umpires today, where they feel like they have to go show up the player when they're in the wrong, like the player has no validation to give a little sass when they make a mistake, the umpire.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, now it's like, yeah, let's get the robo-umps in here because I'm tired of seeing it. And I think about the Walker Buehler start where it was clearly a strike, and the umpire walks out to Buehler,
Yeah.
which is crazy. He's like trying to start
Show him up.
a confrontation, which, you know, if they're doing this, where is freaking the commissioner being like, hey, umpires, you guys are not allowed to leave your box, you know, period. And, you know, Carlos Carrera gets thrown out of a game on the on deck circle because he's trying to calm down his inexperienced player at the box, and the umpire thinks that he's talking to him and then gets tossed for it. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? You are making yourselves, you guys are ending your guys' entire livelihood quicker, because the more they do this, the more people like me who were anti-robot are going to want to be robot, because they don't want to see this. People don't pay the tickets to come see the umpires. You know, they come to see the game and they understand the imperfect part about the game, and they come to see the players. And the umpires are definitely making it way more about themselves than they are about the actual game that they're essentially just refereeing, you know? So
yeah, and you've already mentioned one. I mentioned one. There's been I think over 5 or 6 ejections just this weekend. JP Crawford was another one. He argued a strike call, and it was egregious. I mean, I've seen some bad ones, right? But when you've got a ball that's 6 inches below the zone, you know, I don't blame a player for turning around and being like, "Are you serious?" Like, we're talking, you know, a game of inches, which it truly is a game of inches. And I understand the fact that, you know, there's imperfect play and there's imperfect calls, and I get all that. But there's got to be some level of accountability for the umpires to have to answer for this. And they really don't have to, because their union is so strong. They're one of the most protected groups of officials in all of professional sports. Nobody says anything about them. And then when they do argue with them, they're immediately ejected. And a lot of the times they face suspension if it's gone to a point of, you know, any sort of contact at all, even if the umpire's the one engaging it. So there's a lot of, you know, context to talk through with it. But at the end of the day, you know, these guys gotta be held accountable for the fact that they're not calling great games. And when they do make mistakes, I feel like there's got to be some level of humility in the call. We've seen recently there have been some good umpires as well. I think there was one the other day where a guy called I don't know the umpire's name, but he called a strike. I think it was or he called it a ball, and the pitcher, it was a clear strike. It was almost right down the middle. And then afterwards, he actually said to the pitcher, he was like, "Hey, that was my bad." So it is kind of good when you see a little bit of humility from these guys, but a lot of the time we're seeing the egos take over, which I'm not a fan of, because I'm not there to watch you make calls and get in players' faces. That's not what it's all about.
yeah, I remember the days where umpires would miss a call and then you got a made up call if you handled the situation correctly.
Yep.
And it seems like nowadays there are no wrong calls from umpires. They're always correct no matter what occurs and what is accurate and what's not inaccurate. So it's definitely a shame. It should never be a conversation piece. People have been dealing with umpires since playing in Little League, and they understand how to deal with umpires, especially if we're taught and coached correctly, and you can manage those situations. But they're almost becoming unmanageable now with how these umpires act. And I understand why some of these players and managers are losing their absolute minds, because with some of these situations, I don't know how I would control myself. So,
Yeah. I'm gonna give you one more example. It was on May 30th of this week. Pirates manager Don Kelly was ejected, as was Henry Davis for the Pirates. It was a bases loaded situation. It was a 3-2 count, and the tying run would have come in on a walk, and the ball was so far outside and below the zone. It was so bad. It was one of the worst calls I've seen in a while, especially given the situation. Obviously, Henry Davis was not thrilled about it. I think in that moment, if I'm an umpire and I know I just made a call that was borderline at best, that would be probably being nice about the situation. I'd probably give a little bit of leeway to the situation. And
I'd
you
walk
know
off the
emotions
field.
are running.
I'd walk off the field, shrug my shoulders, be like, "Yeah, that was a mess up. That was an oopsie. We'll see if we can't make it up at some point."
But instead, basically doubled down and said, I made the call and it was right, and you can go back and look at it. And that's just crazy. It's crazy behavior, and something that, baseball fans are not, we don't love it. We don't love it. Nobody loves it. It's not good for the game, and I hope something gets done about it. But, based on that umpires union, I just don't see anything changing for quite a while. Now, the robo-ump situation, I think that's going to help a lot, and I see it being implemented pretty soon. When I go to minor league games, it's actually, I thought it was going to be a little bit more painful. It's a painless process, and it's quick, and it's kind of fun. All these years of the umpires having the leeway to do whatever they want. It's kind of fun when a player can be like, "No, you're straight ass wrong on this." Yeah, tap the hat and watch this. And I love it. I think it's kind of cool. You get to show up the umpire a little bit in a way that's, a little bit different. Now, granted, you may be completely wrong and you get showed up even more, which that's the risk you take, but I kind of like it. I think it adds a little bit of dynamic to the game.
Yeah, my last note on it is that an umpire's so hard to do. And so the people that are like, why don't they just call up other ones? Because the ones that are not in the bigs, they're even worse. And
way worse.
I know there's some like tenure aspect for like the Angel Hernandez where he was really bad, but he had so much tenure that it was like a teacher. He had to stay put. But for the most part, the best ones are in the bigs, and it's just a really, really, really hard thing to do. But yeah, I'm down for the robo ump. I saw it in the spring training, and it was much quicker than I was anticipating. So
yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between a 2-1, 3-1 count and a 2-2 count. And so if you're a hitter and you feel like you can get that advantageous count or vice versa, then you should be able to do that.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna jump into our segment, our favorite new segment. We've got the buttered plain or burnt toast. 3 comparable players. The buttered is obviously the starter. The plain is the benched player, and the burnt is going to be DFA'd. I am on the hook today. So, Joe, who do we have, and what kind of players am I going to have to pick around here?
All right. So last week we did some position players. This week I'm going to do pitchers, and I threw in a oldie.
All right.
So they're all starters. They're all studs at one point in their career or currently in their career. And so the 3 I got are Tarek Skubal, Kurt Schilling, and Jacob deGrom.
Oof. And are we talking current Jacob deGrom, or are we talking
I want
prime?
Everyone in their prime.
Everybody in their prime.
So basically, Tarek Skubal now, Jacob deGrom, handful of years ago, Kurt Schilling, late Phillies through early Red Sox.
Yeah. This may surprise some people. So I'm gonna go deGrom starter. I'm gonna go Schilling on the bench, and I'm gonna DFA Skubal.
Okay.
And the only reason that I'm DFAing Skubal, which by the way, the dude's absolutely lights out and one of, if not the best pitcher in baseball right now. But it has been a short period of time. And even though he's in his prime and he's absolutely dirty, the other two guys I feel like I've seen and gotten a lot more out of. And I trust them a little bit more if I had to have it. And maybe, you could make the case all day that Schilling could also be the starter in this situation, but deGrom was just so absolutely untouchable and dirty in his prime. When he was healthy, it was just so much fun to watch, and his fastball was electric. And I don't know, man. I that's why I'm gonna roll with. I'd be interested to know if you agree or disagree with the three that I've got there.
Yeah, to me, Schilling's the starter just because. I mean, Schilling used to throw 99, so that's why I'd put him up there. But he's arguably the best postseason pitcher of all time.
Yeah.
Which neither of those cats have any type of postseason experience. And that would be my deciding factor between. Because I think if you put up all their best seasons, I think Kurt would also have several seasons in there that people don't even remember. They probably only remember the bloody sock, but like his Diamondbacks years, he didn't have a Cy Young. However, the only reason why he didn't have a Cy Young is because Randy Johnson was his teammate.
Yep.
And I was about to choose Randy Johnson, but I thought that would be too easy. So
I will say though, with deGrom, the only caveat there would be if I would have, deGrom played for bad Mets teams. He just did. If we were, if we made up a universe where we could put deGrom on another team, let's say we put him on the good Sox teams or anything like that, we might be talking about a completely different situation of deGrom.
We could, or he could be like Kershaw.
Or exactly, yeah. It's
like
very
Kershaw.
possible.
So that would be my only reason for Schilling is that he's arguably the top 3 postseason pitcher of all time.
But you do agree with the DFA?
Yeah, I mean either or with those. Either or. I mean, I think Tarek Skubal is going to have a very similar career to deGrom when it comes to stats, and if he stays healthy, obviously he'll be better. And he should get his first postseason taste this year. Well, technically, he had it last year, and I think. Did he get touched up, or did the pen blow it?
For
the Tigers,
Skubal?
Yeah.
This week?
No, last year postseason.
Oh, in the postseason, I believe Skubal was pretty good.
I thought so too.
I think he was pretty good. He's got, I saw a tweet today that was like, if you had to have it, it was Game 7. Who do you like right now? Who would you give the ball to? And I think I tweeted out, I would take Skeens or I would take Skubal, and it's not a question of anybody else. And the biggest reasons why for me are either one of those guys, they just have something different about them on the mound where I feel like they're going to rise to the occasion. Whereas, Yamamoto, as we saw today, which by the way, he got real hyper on the mound today and could not find the strike zone. He leads the league in 3-2 counts. He walks a lot of guys. I don't trust him. And there's some other guys out there I just don't trust that I know are elite pitchers, but when I need to have a Game 7, I want a guy with Skubal's attitude on the mound. I want a guy that is lights out like Paul Skeens and just stone cold, goes about his business. So I kind of like it. I like the idea of both of those guys, but when you're putting up Skubal against Schilling and deGrom, it's hard for me to pull that plug yet.
So
talk to me in a couple of years.
So quick notes. I got to look up Jacob deGrom. Has he even pitched in the postseason?
Maybe for the Rangers.
I think he was injured during that World Series run, or his pre-World Series. All right, hold on. Let me pull that up. I got the other twos up. Nope, he has pitched in the postseason.
All right.
So DeGrom is 4-1 with a 2.9 ERA,
Pretty good.
37 strikeouts, and 31 innings pitched. Both with the Mets in 2015 and 2022.
Okay.
Tarek Skubal. Oh, I just had this pulled up. He is 1-1 with a 2.37 ERA.
Okay.
247 FIP, 20 strikeouts, 19 innings pitched. So arguably deGrom's better, but he literally just had his first taste last year. Kurt Schilling is 11-2 in the postseason. He is 2.23 ERA, 133 innings pitched, and has 120 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Two-time World Series, actually 3-time World Series champ, Arizona and 2 with the Sox, and then had 2 other postseason appearances, one with the Phillies in 93 and one with the Diamondbacks trying to repeat in 2002. And yeah, I mean, 2004, he was dealing with the ankle, still had a 357. And then at the later end of his career at 2007, his last postseason chance and World Series winner, he had a 3 ERA. So,
I mean, look, Schilling is dirty. All right. There's just no question about it. He's absolutely filthy. His career WAR is a 79.5.
Yeah, he's absolutely getting robbed from the Hall of Fame.
Absolute robbery from the Hall of Fame. What I will say though is when I look at deGrom's career numbers, and we have to also take into effect, obviously, some of the injury history and everything else. But if we just look at the prime years, there was nothing like it. He was so shut down. And let's just take a random year here, right? Let's take his age 30 year in 2018. For the entire season, he had an ERA of 1.70, and his FIP was a 1.98. So it's not like he was really getting all that lucky and everything else. He pitched 217 innings and he had 269 strikeouts. He allowed 10 homers the entire year and only walked 46 batters. I mean, when you're talking Cy Young years, they don't get much better than that.
What was his highest WAR season?
His highest WAR season was that year in 2018 at a 9.4.
Okay.
And he followed it up the next year with a 7.2. Also won a Cy Young, I believe, that year.
Yeah. So Schilling in 2001, which is he got Randy Johnson won the Cy Young.
Yep.
He had a 8.8. So he never hit deGrom's number. However, the year after in 2002, he had an 8.6 WAR.
Yeah.
And then he had another 7.8 WAR, which was in 2004, his first season with the Red Sox. And then his highest WAR in Philly was a 6.3.
It's hard. I will say it's very difficult to choose between either of those guys. I'm going to stick by my deGrom. If I'm taking deGrom's 2018 year and I'm taking Schilling's 2001 year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Arguably, they're both their best years individually.
Yeah, Schilling had 293 strikeouts.
I was going to say, I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those guys on the bump.
FIP? What was his FIP in that year? And
so that's the deciding factor for me. In 2001, his FIP, Schilling's FIP was a 3.11, whereas deGrom's FIP was a 1.98.
Holy hell! Yeah.
It was one of the most dominant pitching performances of anybody ever, and he was 30 years old, by the way, and Schilling was 34. So both of those guys on the plus side of 30. Just pitching like absolute animals.
God,
and
that's insane.
That's why Skubal's getting DFA'd here, and it has nothing to do with Skubal himself, because I think he's going to be an absolute animal for his entire career. But just for shits and giggles here, let's take a look at Skubal's Cy Young year last year. His FIP was a 2.49. He had 228 strikeouts in 192 innings, and his WAR was a 6.4, which would be the lowest out of all three of those guys. I think it's justified. I think it's justified if we look at
he's
those.
basically like Schilling's fourth and fifth best years was Skubal's last year. Schilling's fourth best year had a 6.3 WAR, and he had 319 Ks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just insane. That's just crazy. Yeah, I will. Here's the only caveat, and this is where
steroid era. That's in steroid era.
We may look back in a few years and be like, you are an idiot for DFAing Skubal. Because if we look at Skubal's 2025 right now, the dude's got a 1.9 FIP. He's got a .79 whip. He already has 99 strikeouts in just over 75 innings pitched. He's on track to be better than deGrom was the year that he won the Cy Young and arguably his most dominant year ever. His WAR is already up to almost a 3 this year.
Oh, wow.
So he's impressive.
They're definitely a third of the way through. So he's around a 9, hovering a 9.
It's going to be scary. And he's only getting better. And he's still young. What's his age right now? He's 28 years old. So
yeah, we'll
see, man. I think right now what we have to go off of, I'm good with my deGrom, Schilling, and Skubal DFA. But man, it's going to get tight. That was a good one. I really enjoyed that because I'll tell you right now, that was not as easy to pick through as it seems.
Last shout out, Curt Schilling is from Anchorage, Alaska. So I don't know how many other MLB players are from Alaska, but Curt Schilling has to be the best player from Alaska to ever come out of the great state.
No doubt. Let's talk our GM spotlight. This is arguably our second favorite segment. Last week we talked a little Rangers baseball. Let's look at the mighty Diamondbacks and kind of where they're at right now. I'm gonna give you a quick rundown just of their overall kind of standing here. So right now with the Diamondbacks, they're approximately at $181.8 million in total payroll. It ranks them 13th in the MLB. They just signed a couple of notable contracts. Obviously, we talked about Corbin Burns. It's their franchise historic deal of 6 years, $210 million. They also signed Ketel Marte, 6 years, $116 million. So there's some escalators in that deal as well. But their team valuation is at a $1.6 billion valuation, which is on the lower end of the MLB. So that would actually put them at 21st among MLB teams. But their 1 year increase on team evaluation is 12%. So they're doing right. They're they're pushing forward and they're making some investments into the team, obviously. Let's pause there, and I want to kind of get your feeling on overall right now, the way that they have their payroll structured and how their team looks. They're obviously built to win now, but they're not really doing that. Do you see any issues with their current structure? And kind of what's the game plan here for the Diamondbacks in one of the toughest divisions in baseball?
Well, I think that's just it. They unfortunately have to be in the same division as the Dodgers. And then with Buster Posey and San Fran, and the Padres always spending money still, even though they are in bankruptcy court. I think their biggest piece to the puzzle is Corbin Carroll at 8 years, $111 million, and they have their star locked up, and they get to watch him grow and develop still. He's 5'10", 165 pounds. You imagine in 3 to 4 years he'll be closer to 200 pounds and more developed, and who knows what he'll be able to do. But I think overall they have a solid roster construct. They have great starting rotation with Zach Gallen, Corbin Burns. They have Eduardo Rodriguez, a guy who I really liked. I mean, even Jordan Montgomery, playoff hero, he's on the rotation. Merrill Kelly's been solid here and there. So I
want to know if somebody that you would not know has been one of the best players in baseball from a WAR perspective?
Their shortstop, Their
Yes.
shortstop, Jordan
Geraldo Perdomo. He's
Also
already
a
got
young guy.
2-3. I think it's a 2-3 WAR already this year. And I saw that on Twitter, and I was like, what? You saw all the names, it's like Ohtani and Judge and PCA and all these guys, and then you see Geraldo Perdomo, you're like,
Yeah,
wait,
25
what?
years old. I believe he was only platooning last year because I had him on my fantasy team.
Yep.
And now he's getting opportunities, a switch hitter, 6'2" at the shortstop position. And then they got Kate Martell, Josh Naylor, who they traded for from the Indians, Eugenio Suarez, who's kind of one of their power outlets, big power, no minimal contact guy. Their outfield, they still have Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who's a veteran.
How about Suarez? Dude goes on
Eugenio Suarez, third base.
Home run barrages like earlier this year as well.
Yeah, so I think they have a pretty solid roster. It's just some guys are underperforming, have some injuries. Obviously, they can add some pieces. I think a good piece, if I was them to try to go get, that would also kind of fit their middle market payroll, would be a Jarren Duran if the Red Sox continue to struggle. And they have a solid minor league system as well, where they can go get players. Even a Sandy. Like, Sandy should have a really good bargain deal coming up. Sucks for the Marlins because they kind of hosed themselves. They would have traded him. Hindsight's 2020, but if they would have traded him in the offseason, they would have gotten a huge package. And now at this rate, they might get one top 100 prospect in return for him. It's like, what do you do? Keep him another year?
I was gonna say I have a conspiracy theory on this.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sandy Alcantara loves to play for the Marlins. I think he absolutely loves it, and he has completely ruined all of his trade value so that he can remain with the Marlins. He is what's his ERA at this year? He's sitting at I just saw it. Just saw it here. He's sitting at an 8.47 ERA.
To me, it smells like a Dodgers do a little, everyone's giving you one top 100 prospect. We'll throw 2 top 100 prospects in there. We'll take him, and then he'll be an absolute stud. That is what it's smelling like to me with Sandy. But if you're a team like Arizona, Sandy has a very manageable contract. I think he's only making like 13-15 million a year. He's got 3 years left. Well, I guess counting this year, he has 3 years left. So really it'd be 2 years left after. You could add him and then get a piece like Jarren Duran to add to your core with Corbin Carroll and Jarren running around in the outfield, and you'd have another 3 years control on him. And then in the off season, if you want to make a push at a playoff run, you can go add a piece and then give up someone in a couple of years. But I think overall, they have a very competitive team, a team that can easily make the playoffs year in and year out. They have a young core that they can build around and who is locked up in Corbin Carroll. And then they have other young guys like Geraldo Perdomo, who is possibly overperforming now, but then again, he's only 25 years old. So it could be something that is going to stay for the next handful of years. So it's one of those things that, when you watch the AL East and you see the Yankees, they do the same thing. It's intimidating. They always go by the best people. They always have top prospects coming up as well. And you just got to figure out ways to get into the playoffs, and then anything can happen, just like they proved a couple years ago when they made it to the World Series. So
So their primary owner's Ken Kendrick. He's their managing general partner. And under his leadership, they've eliminated over $350 million in debt through equity and debt restructures. So as of right now, obviously they're in a good financial situation. They have also announced that they're planning to do some renovations to Chase Field that are estimated to cost between $400 and $500 million. So we're talking major investments into Arizona's, probably one of the premier franchises in Arizona, especially if they get that approved. But despite all of the obligations, right? The team they've maintained a strong financial position, and even with the record payroll that they have right now, they're in good standing. So I think overall, if you're a Diamondbacks fan, you got to feel good about where the organization is from a leadership standpoint, especially under Mr. Ken Kendrick. Which, by the way, what a name, Ken Kendrick. Kendrick? It has to be, right? Kendrick?
KK.
KK. Gotta love it.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a Diamondbacks fan, I love their position over, say, someone like the Rockies, obviously, but even someone like the Padres, who usually in recent years has had more money to spend and might have more star power, but I believe the Diamondbacks are built for the future and win now currently. And then even better than the Giants as well. I mean, the Giants are a big payroll team. I think the valuations for the top 5 MLB teams in baseball, I believe the Giants are number 5 with over $4 billion valuation. So being in a better position than them, I think is very kudos to what management, ownership and management has been able to do with this franchise.
Yeah, for sure. And then when you're talking about the future, we'd be remiss to not mention their top prospects. So Jordan Lawler, who we kind of mentioned beforehand, he is their number 4, or actually I believe their number 1 overall prospect technically. But he was recently promoted. He was slashing like 406 homers at AAA, but then got recently demoted back to AAA, I believe, because he failed to record a hit when he came up, and we kind of already, talked through the woes of that. And then one of their other promising top prospects is Slade Caldwell. He was in high school, I believe, last year. He was their 2024 first overall pick. And he's currently in low A, but I think he actually may have just been promoted. He's already in the top 100 prospects for the MLB. So this he's a dog. And I think the Diamondbacks have a lot to look forward to in the near future. Let's take a quick snapshot of the current standings and our thoughts on, kind of where we see some of these teams and if they're real or not real. So the Yankees have a 5-game lead. The Tigers have a 6-game lead in their division, and the Mariners have a half-game lead in their division. This has maintained a pretty steady structure here. We've seen the Yanks and Tigers not really relent much, even with the 2 games that the Yankees dropped to the Dodgers this week. I think did they finish off that game?
They did. They're technically now 5.5 ahead of.
So now they're 5.5 ahead of the Blue Jays. Mariners, though, they got to be careful, man. That division is going to be a fight to the end, and I'll tell you right now, a half-game lead's not going to win it. They're going to have to go on a little bit of a run.
No, they need to bring in some people. They need to bring in some people to separate. But I agree, the West is going to be a dogfight to the very, very end, which it has been that way for a while now. The only team I still feel comfortable with is the Tigers. Even when the other teams in that division go on a run, they're consistently winning series and they can never make up games on them. And they too, I believe, will be a big buyer at the deadline when we approach it. It'll be interesting to see who they add. As for the Yanks, I think they'll also add, but like I said, I'm not a big believer. The New York Yankees are not the team of last year. They're not the Yankees of old. They have many holes that can be, they're very beatable this year. And I still don't think that division, I think that division will also end up being like the AL West where it's a crapshoot at the end.
Yeah, I felt a lot better about the Yankees until this weekend, to be honest. I think this weekend really showed the gap between the Yanks and the Dodgers. And I'm not reading too much into that 18-2 game. But if I look at the first game, that's where I really saw it. Was the Yankees took a nice lead on the Dodgers. They had a chance to really set the tone for the series. They were up, I think, 5-2. And, you got a little bit further into the game. You had Max Fried on the mound. And they They proceed to allow 6 unearned runs and lose the game 8-5, I believe, or maybe it was 9-5. Didn't score again the entire game. And really the only reason that the Yankees were in any of these games was because Judge decided that he wanted to go nuts and hit a bunch of home runs this week. So if you kind of look at the overall structure and where the breakdowns were and the lack of consistency in scoring, you got to be a little nervous about the Yanks roster right now.
Yeah, why people are still pitching the Judge makes no sense to me. It's
insane.
Have the rest of the Yankees beat you. It's not hard. Act like
do what the Angels did.
act like Judge is injured,
Yeah.
And pitch around, be selective with what you want to throw him for strikes. If you got to face him, then you got to face him. But if it's, I would treat him like Bonds,
Since we're talking about that, actually, real fast. So there was the Angels last week. They walked Judge in the first inning. There was a man on second, and there were 2 out, or there was 1 out, and they walked Judge. It's smart baseball, right? Set up the double play. I think they ended up giving up 1 run in that inning, instead of what could have been a 2-run shot right there from Judge. And then the next inning he came, I think it was maybe 2 innings later, 3rd inning. This almost the exact same situation was there, and they walked him again. They're just not pitching to him.
Yeah.
So the Angels basically said, "Hey, we're not letting you beat us. Somebody else on your team is going to have to beat us." They did end up winning the game, but it was much more manageable for the Angels than allowing Judge to just go off and hit a bomb or even just an extra base hit. Their scores and kind of gives them some rallying. But yeah, I agree. Why pitch to him? Don't do it. Let's take a look at the NL side. The Mets have a 1-game lead now, which is a far cry of what happened last week. We actually had the Phillies, I think, up by 3 games. So talk about a big flip there. The Cubs have a 4-game lead now as of today. And the Dodgers, I assume that also went down, so maybe a 2.5-game lead now.
Yep, just a 2-game.
Just a 2-gamer. So, nothing there surprises me. Maybe the Dodgers not being further ahead surprises me a little bit. The Cubs are just playing really good baseball, and they kind of just keep churning. They go as PCA and Tucker take them. And actually, don't discount Suzuki either, because I think he leads the league in RBIs right now. But the Mets, man, really, really, they got to be so grateful to the MLB for giving them the Rockies for 3 games, and then they're going to turn around and have the Rockies again coming this weekend. You gotta feel good if you're the Mets right now. Last week I said the Phillies would maybe open a 6 or 7 game lead. Now it's looking like the Mets might actually take advantage of their scheduling situation and open up a little bit of a lead there.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets won't get to play the Rockies every week. They get to do it again this week. The Braves losing the series to the Red Sox. I mean, they're healthy, so I guess they got to figure it all out when everyone's there. We will see. They're starting to worry me. I thought they'd be more like 6 games back. And them being in 4th place again, just, they got to turn it on again. 4 games under 500.
And they lost AJ Smith-Shawver this week for the season, which is brutal.
Yeah, that was a weird
the hits
story.
Just keep coming.
If you saw that whole interaction, he was kind of like pitching through the pain, and no one went out there until Strider went over to the coaching staff and was like, "Hey, you guys need to go check on him." And then the trainer went out there, and then boom, done for the season. So definitely odd. I don't know what's going on over there. If there's a replace the manager and see if there's a boost, I think that is the prime team to do it with.
I don't disagree at all. Yeah,
and I would not worry about have him retire. In quotes. I think some new leadership and kind of a little kick in the arse might be the best thing for the Braves to turn around their season. As for the rest, a little bit of the same. Cubs are staying afloat. You got to think there'll be buyers at the deadline to give them some more pitching to kind of really pull away with it. I don't see the Cardinals keeping it up, but if they do, they can make a playoff spot technically. And as for the West, even though it's only a 2-game lead, it feels more like 6 to 8 games to me with the Dodgers. So a lot of hot starts from the Padres and Giants that are kind of keeping their records afloat. And the Diamondbacks, 3 games under 500, but now with some injuries piling up with their starting rotation, it's not looking great for them at the moment.
I was going to say they're looking a little less scary than we were giving them credit for earlier in the year, especially with everything that's going on. So it's looking like a Giants, Padres, Dodgers division, and really it may end up being a Giants and Dodgers division. I don't know if I'm buying the Padres right now. Not yet. I'm still waiting to see. I don't know what I'm waiting to see. I really don't. I just, there's something about the way that they go about their schedule that concerns me. It seems like they go on really cold streaks, and their lineup just doesn't hit well. And then when their lineup is hitting well, their pitching isn't lights out like it was. You know, Dylan Cease has struggled, and we've seen, you know, if that's going to be your ace for the year, you got to really be able to count on them, and I don't know that they can.
Yeah, Nick Pavetta's been their best pitcher.
Go figure, AL guy, right?
For sure, but that's not going to last. I will make the bold prediction that I could see 3 teams from the NL East making the playoffs.
The NL East. So your 3 teams would obviously be Phillies, Mets, and the Bravos?
The Brabs.
Man.
Which would leave only, that would leave Padres and Giants out of it.
I actually
they're only
think
6.5 back from those 2. The Braves are. I mean, you got to think that they're going to hit a hot streak where they win 7 in a row, and then that puts them 2 back from them, 2 or 3
for
back
what it,
from
yeah,
them.
I mean, for what it's worth, they're 9.5 games out of first place, but they do have a plus 13 differential in runs, so it's not like they don't score. I believe, if I'm not completely out of my mind, their expected win-loss record's actually much more respectable than their current record. It is. They're 27-31 right now. Actually, their expected win-loss record is a 31-27, which would actually put them 3rd in the division and only like a few games out of first place if we went by expected win-loss.
2 games out of a wild card.
Yeah, so there's something to be said about the Braves. I just don't know. There's just so much weirdness around them right now that I just don't know if they get it together, but we'll see. Let's talk last week's predictions. I guess we could talk about this.
Let's talk about it.
I'm not real thrilled. I'll let you lead this in. Go ahead.
All right. So last week we had Rays in Houston on the classic 4-game series. I went with the banana split, which occurred, so I took that series. The next we had Tigers Royals. I had the Tigers winning 2 out of 3. The Tigers won 2 out of 3. I again take that series. We then had the Twins and Mariners, which both games went into extras, and today's game on Sunday was 1 in the 9th. I had the Mariners taking 2 out of 3, and they took the 2nd and 3rd game to win that series. I get another check mark there. And then lastly, to complete the sweep on Monday Night Baseball, I was told I was 0 and whatever for the Dodgers, just being baited to pick the Yankees. There was no way in hell I was going to pick the Yankees. The Dodgers win the first 2 of the matchup, lost the finale. Dodgers win the series, which then completed my sweep, which brought my total to 19-7 and AJ's to 14-22.
It was not good. It was not good.
That is going to be tough to...
It's going to be tough to overcome, but I will say I have a better winning percentage than the Rockies, so I'm gonna take some solace in that.
Yep.
I'm one sweep week away from being right back in it,
That's right.
and it happens quick.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. Maybe it's this week. I don't feel great about my situation right now, but if we're calling it what it was, obviously it was not a great week for me. I did have an opportunity going into today to split this week's predictions with you, and it just did not go my way. A 1-0 loss for the Royals and a bottom of the ninth loss walk-off for the Twins. So brutal for me there. But it is what it is. We soldier on and looking at getting back on track this week. Let's talk a little who's hot, who's not. So we'll run through this pretty quick. I'm gonna go ahead and list off some of our hots, and I'll let you do some of our nots here. So real fast, blitz style. James Wood has been amazing. 348 average, 4 homers, 17 RBIs, 4 stolen bases over the last 2 weeks. Taylor Ward is another one who we keep mentioning this guy, but he just doesn't stop. He had a 302 average with 6 homers, 16 RBIs, and a stolen base. Junior Caminero, young guy for the Rays, absolute stud, had a 347 average with 5 homers and 17 RBIs in the last 2 weeks. We kind of mentioned Cal Raleigh already, 13 home runs in the month, but 8 homers over just the last 2 weeks, and he just won't stop smashing the baseball. He had a 1220 OPS, if you can even fathom that. Christian Yelich, I know this is kind of a sore spot for you, but he absolutely got it going against the Red Sox. And overall, he had a 321 average, 5 homers, including a grand slam. I believe it was a walk-off grand slam against the Red Sox. He had a 974 OPS over that stretch. And then a couple pitchers that have just been locked down. We talked about Tarek Skubal, a 1.25 ERA with a .46 whip over his last 2 starts, which is that's just disgusting. 28 strikeouts in 21 innings pitched, including one of the greatest Maddoxes we've ever seen. Framber Valdez was another, had a 2 ERA, a 2.05 ERA, 22 strikeouts in 22 innings. Drew Rasmussen. I brought this guy up on Twitter this week. He has got to be one of the most overlooked pitchers this year. Nobody's talking about him. Over the last 2 weeks, he has a 0 ERA. He's not allowed to run. He has a .67 whip and 13 Ks in 18 innings pitched. He's not a big strikeout guy, but what he is going to give you is really quality outings, and he's going to keep your team in contention. He's not going to give up a lot. So kind of fun guy to watch. I know he's kind of been a bit of a journeyman, I believe. But go out and get Drew Rasmussen if you can. I believe he has relief pitching eligibility too, so you can slot him in there. And then Paul Skeens, another stud, .87 ERA with a .68 whip, 24 strikeouts in 20 innings. And Ranger Suarez, another guy with a 0 ERA. His whip's a little higher to 1.26, but that's kind of his game. He's a ground ball pitcher, 14 strikeouts in 12 innings pitched. And that is your hot list of the week. Go out and trade or pick up those guys because they are all performing at very elite levels.
Yeah, unfortunately, not a lot of those guys will be available. If they are, scoop them immediately. Looks like Taylor Ward has been scooped up over the past handful of weeks after all the AL Player of the Week awards for him. But yeah, it's a good list. Who's not hot? Got Francisco Alvarez, catcher for the Metropolitans. 174 average, 0 home runs, 0 RBIs, a .96 slugging, and a .283 on base percentage. Not great. Nolan Jones, Rockies.
You're gonna see a lot of Rockies on this list.
204 average, 2 home runs, 14 RBIs, 592 OPS. Javier Baez with the resurgence is now on the desurgence. 171 average, 1 home run, 2 RBIs, 205 on base percentage. Kyle Freeland, 0-4 with a 6.37 ERA, 190 WHIP over his last week. Jorge Soler, 205, 2 home runs, 10 RBIs, 600 OPS. Jared Trollo, 163 average, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 615 OPS. Eli White, 220 average, 0 home runs, 6 RBIs, 549 OPS. Antonio Cinzatella, 0-4, 11.45 ERA, 191 WHIP over 11 innings pitched. Lastly, Michael Soroka, the king of stillness, a 0-3, 0-3, 1080 ERA, 210 WHIP over 10 innings pitched. These guys aren't too hot.
Yeah, not good. The one fact check we're going to do here real quick. So Nolan Jones was a career Rockies guy. He actually plays for the Guardians now. Regardless,
he was in the trade.
Regardless, he's playing horribly with a 5.92 OPS over his last couple of weeks here. I would say almost every single guy on that list, if I'm being completely honest, maybe outside of Francisco Alvarez, because I think that he's got a little bit of youth and pop in him. Everybody else can pretty much be dropped or traded, in my opinion. All right, and here it is.
Prediction time.
The prediction time. So, some really fun series coming up this weekend. It's not going to be a crazy weekend for baseball outside of these matchups. So these are the ones that you're definitely going to want to watch. And we're going to start out with the Cubs at the Tigers. So we don't have a lot of pitching matchups already scheduled for these because we are filming on Sunday the week before. But what I will tell you is Skubal is scheduled to pitch the first game of this series. So, Joe, with that knowledge, go ahead and give me your prediction for that series.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Tigers at home. They will be winning the Skubal game. They will be shutting out the Cubs on the Skubal game. Cubs will be blanked. That's what I'm feeling. The Tigers are 21-8 at Comerica Field this year. So I think the Tigers will win 2 out of 3, and that is what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I hate to break this to you, but first of all, it's not happening. And second of all, they're going to be 21-11 by the end of that Sunday stretch. I'm just kidding. They're going to be 22-10. I got the Cubs taking it 2-1. I would love to go with a sweep there, but Tarek Skubal just, he's too much fun to watch, and I think the Cubs will probably drop that game. They don't have the pitching to keep up. So yeah, Cubs 2-1. Let's go to your side of the field here. Red Sox at Yankees. Gotta love it. Hey, look, not been a great year for the Red Sox, but they're coming in after a good series with against the Braves, the Bravos, and you gotta feel good. And the Yankees are kind of coming off a less than stellar outing against the LA Dodgers. So who do you got in this?
So they got the Angels before the Yanks, the greatest rivalry in sports. And I'm feeling a sweep for them, which would put them at 500. And then I like their pitching matchups against the Yanks. They got Walker Buehler on Friday. Saturday, they get Garrett Crochet, I believe. That is correct. And then Sunday, they get Dick Fitz. He's back off the DL. And he is facing Fat Bald Rodon on Sunday, which I love. I love the matchup. I'm going to take 2 out of 3, just showing respect for the rivalry, not for the Yanks. And I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to oppose you on this one as well. So I got the Yankees taking it 2-1. I think that they get back on track. Back at home, Yankees coming off probably a pretty good series against Cleveland. I think it'll be tightly contested, and I think they're going to be coming in pretty hot. It is bobblehead night, Yogi Berra bobblehead night on Friday. So no chance they're losing that one. And then I believe it's Sunday night baseball against the Red Sox on the 8th. Give me the Yanks to take Friday and Sunday. I like it 2-1. Let's talk about a little Dodgers and Cardinals. A series that we probably would not have expected to be a top series is now all of a sudden a division leader versus a division hopeful in the Cardinals. Go ahead and give me your predictions for this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers obviously just won their first prediction with me predicting them, so that's good. I'm thinking they're going to make it 2 in a row. My gut is telling me that this is a series the Cardinals somehow win. However, with Yamamoto, Dustin May, and then Clayton Kershaw on Sunday, I'm going to roll with the Dodgers 2 out of 3 against the Cards on the road.
Yeah. I really want to pick the Cardinals here too. I don't know why, but I feel called to do so, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going Dodgers 2-1. I think the Dodgers just have a little bit too much, and I think that this might be the weekend that we see the Cardinals wake up from their amazing dream that they've had over the last couple of weeks and start to falter. And our final series to watch this weekend is the Padres at Brewers. By the way, I just realized that we have almost the entire NL Central on here outside of the Pirates and Reds. Padres at Brewers. Both teams are playing pretty well. I think they have almost the exact same record. And it's in Milwaukee. Go ahead and give us your prediction.
Yeah, I think it's this is the one you just roll the dice and you hope you get it right. I'm going to go with the Padres this time. None of the pitching matchups are screaming at me like there's an advantage. Let's see. The Brew Crew are 18-10 at home. So they will then be 19-12 after this weekend. So I am going with the Padres.
I agree. This is a coin flip for me as well. I'm gonna go with the Brewers here, and my main reasoning for this is because the Padres are 13-14 away from home. They're 20-10 at home. If they had to play away more often, they would be an abysmal team, under 500. So give me the Brew Crew and their feistiness. I kind of like it. Give me 2-1 on the Brew Crew for this weekend.
Got any fantasy updates?
As far as how the team's doing?
Yeah, I'm curious.
The fantasy team's doing very well to start the week off. So, I mean, look, not doing great overall. I think we're sitting in last place. I might have the same win percentage as I have in predictions. But this week, we're starting to hit our stride a little bit here. By the way, it's pretty hotly contested across all of the standings, except for the top team he's got a win percentage of 615. So, you're not much further ahead of me there.
No,
at a
week.
481. Yeah,
but I'm having a good week this week. I feel good about it. Bats are hot, pitching's hot, but who I'm playing, he has a 1.95 ERA and a 0.97 WHIP through the week and 99 Ks.
Yeah,
and that's with me having 10 quality starts. Like, what the
yeah, it might just be one of those situations.
But I'm up 6-5-2. So we gotta see how we finish.
I believe I am up. I am 8-4-1, projected to be 10-3 in this matchup, which would be very welcome for me.
I would be curious to know if anyone out there, out of the community of just under 2,000 people, if they're doing a dynasty league and how many DL spots they have, because I feel like that is a common theme of the message that we want more DL spots, including, I mean, it would be nice for me to have more DL spots as well, being the commissioner, because I have 2 or 3 guys I have 9 guys on the DL with only 6 DL spots. So I am curious to know what the average Dynasty League format setup is with DL spots.
Yeah, I would love a long-term DL spot. I think that's beneficial for Dynasty leagues. Obviously, like a 60-day / out for season type of situation. Maybe one hitter, one pitcher. That was my proposal. We'll see how it goes over voting during the winter meetings. But
Yeah, I don't even know if that's an option though. That's the
yeah. We may have to play with it a little bit.
But we can definitely add more DL spots. But did standard Dynasty teams have like 10 DL spots? Like I feel like 6 is.
Yeah.
I feel like 6 is a lot.
I actually don't know, but it feels like my team is constantly
Same.
in the hospital.
I'm not even defending it. I'm generally curious what the standard is for Dynasty formats and DL spots because it is crazy, and you don't want to drop some of these guys.
Yeah,
but at the same time, you just don't want people hoarding people on the DL. That's like the logic behind it. But for Christ's sake, it's like these guys that go on the DL, it's not old school. No one's playing through injuries anymore. No more
not
playing
at all.
through injuries. You have a stub toe on the DL for 15 days. Strictly podcasting for 15 days with stub toe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk through on fantasy in general, but I would say right now feeling decent about the team, even though we're in last place. I like the way that my roster is structured for the long term. Hopefully, we can make some noise toward the end of the season.
Yeah.
So that is a wrap on this week's episode of Toast Sports Baseball. If you guys enjoyed the show, please make sure you follow or subscribe wherever you guys get your podcasts. And don't forget to leave us a quick review. It absolutely helps us. We're dropping new episodes every single week. We're posting daily updates, highlights, takes on socials. So make sure you follow us at Toast Sports Baseball and stay plugged in with us. Thanks for riding with us. And always stay hot, stay locked in, and stay toasty. See you next week.